All 616 picks are in. We've already covered the American League. Now let's do the National League, rapid fire style. What did day one look like? Some interesting mid-round picks and an interesting late-round flyer for every single National League team. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, baseball writer for Sports Illustrated. Thank you for making this your first listen every single day. And like I said yesterday, thank you for joining us with all this draft coverage. It's been a great time, busy time of the year, obviously, but the mailbag is back next Monday. If you have questions for the show, I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. The show is on Twitter at Locked On Farm, or you can email us, lockedonmlbprospects@gmail.com. Let's get into the National League, and let's start off in the National League East. So the Washington Nationals had the 5th overall pick, had been linked to Kevin Parada all year. All spring. That's kind of like the most consistent pick I had seen for any team in any mock was Kevin Parada to the Nationals. Board didn't quite shake out that way. They take Elijah Green in the first, and then follow that up with left-hand pitcher Jake Bennett from Oklahoma in the second. So, best athlete as far as Elijah Green's concerned. Absolutely best athlete in the draft. Combination of power and speed. You remember his dad was an NFL tight end. And then you follow that up with a high floor guy in Jake Bennett, the consistent performer. Both of these guys fit the Nationals' MO. They're well regarded by the conventional scouting but the conventional scouts who are not looking at spin rates and specific measures, like they're looking at what a dude looks like on the baseball field. These guys love these two players, so interesting choice there. Kind of how it broke. I don't know if Elijah Green was always the pick, but I think it worked out really well. And if he works out, they'll be very, very excited to have that potential there. Interesting picks midway through. Murphy Stelly out of Texas, the third baseman in the 10th round. He's got some outfield versatility. He can play in left. He can play in right. He's got some power as well. Slugging of .662 with 19 home runs and 23 doubles last year. So very good season for Texas. He's played all 4 infield positions. Like I said, he's played right field as well. But he'll be 24 in September. So the models like him for his production. The models like him for some of the other measurements. The models don't like the fact he'll be 24 already. He'll already be older than a lot of A-ball players by the time he actually gets into the organization. So something that some pros, some cons. That's kind of why he's a 10th rounder versus a 4th or a 3rd or even higher. Late round guy that I thought was really interesting here, not super late, but Luke Young, the pitcher out of junior college in the 11th. Polished command to him, really has a feel for pitching, and it's something it really kind of picked up. He was committed to go to Oklahoma State after this season. He had 2 innings of work in an all-star showcase between Texas and New Mexico. Sat like 95, 96, slider, curve combo, like a slurve combo really there. And over the season, struck out 110 guys in 79 innings. So I think he's got plenty of physical projection left on him. I think he's somebody where you just haven't seen enough of a track record to maybe be super confident as to what he is, but the potential is absolutely there. And so that's why he was an 11th rounder, but a guy that I think actually can contribute for the Nationals. And again, one of those guys that the conventional scouts love. That's kind of the model that Washington does. The Miami Marlins. So go for high-end talent in the first. Jacob Berry. Tons of power there. Jacob Miller, the prep pitcher in the 2nd round. A lot of potential there. And overall, the draft itself, the impression that I kind of get is it's kind of boring. There's nothing that stands out to me as that was a huge reach. That was a huge value. It's just them going and trying to get good players and restock the system. Obviously, tons of pitchers. That's Miami's thing to do. We know they can develop it. They took a lot of college guys, especially in the first 10 rounds. You look in the, in the back half, there's a prep guy in there in the 17th. But for the most part, it's let's restock our program. Let's restock our program early. We're taking big Power 5 guys. Later, we're taking smaller school guys who have projectable metrics. Some interesting picks here. One of the, Josh White from Cal, pitcher in the 5th round, electric arm. I mean, fastball touches 97. He's got 2+ breaking pitches, but controls a bit inconsistent. I trust Miami to go in there and develop him into a more well-rounded pitcher and to kind of help him harness that control to be an effective piece. And with those 3, I'll say 2+ pitches and an above-average fastball. If they can get the fastball a little better, combine those breakers, you have a guy that could be, a number 3, number 4 for you, depending on how those pitches work out. So, thought that was a great pick by the Marlins in the 5th. Late round pick, 16th round, Brett Roberts, the infielder out of Florida State. Played well at the Cape last year. One of those guys where obviously the Cape's got a higher level competition. They go to wood bats. Played well at the Cape. At Florida State, the book on him has, he was at Tennessee Tech, then he transferred in. But it's something where contact hitter, doesn't swing and miss a ton, but doesn't always have the best swing decision. So he'll make contact, but it's like it's probably a ball. You probably should have let that go. Needs to be more disciplined in the zone. Does really well against fastballs, struggles against velocity, and then the arm's only average. He played third. There's some thought he could work out in the outfield. I see him as probably a second baseman, but again, you could try him out in left field as well. Only had 5 home runs, slugging a .461, so I don't quite think he fits that left field profile. So I think they're going to start him off at second. But either way, good pick, like Brett Roberts out of Florida State in the 16th round there for the Marlins. The Mets had a really good draft. Got Kevin Parada early, went with premium talent here. Kevin Parada. They got shortstop Jet Williams at 14 out of high school in Texas. Pitcher Blade Tidwell out of Tennessee in the 2nd round, a guy that had been injured to start the year and so didn't have a full year, probably fell a little bit because of that. And really here, the big takeaway is they went with premium talent, but they kind of balanced it between prep and college and between pitching and position players. A little better of a mix between pitchers and position players. Some of the notables here that I liked, 10th round, all-name team selection, right-hand pitcher out of Arkansas, Zebulon Vermillion. Big guy, 6'5", 240, fastball slider guy with size. And I think they need to work on some of the other secondaries for him, as well as just a little bit more consistency. But the fastball slider combo will play now. And then the size definitely helps, gives you a little better angle when you're coming to the plate, things like that. Like that choice. 18th round, really interesting guy, Chris Santiago from St. Mary's College. He's listed as a pitcher. He was a two-way guy. So he played third base, batted .287 with 10 home runs, but then also was a reliever. So he'd come in late, close out a game, 25, just under 25% strikeout rate. So I'm not quite sure if he's going to do both for the Mets. I think this is something where he will be a pitcher first, and then your fallback is you can have him play a position if pitching doesn't work out. But I like the pick. I think there's potential there. I like the flexibility of knowing that he can be a position player as well. We see a lot of them. They don't always get announced as two ways, but I think that's good. Braves. I was initially iffy on the Braves, and a couple people, I think I mentioned this on Tuesday's show. Joe Doyle of Prospects Live really kind of helped explain some of what they did, because the word on the Braves was they need to restock position players in the system. They've got starting pitching talent. So what do? They go very pitcher heavy in the draft, especially preps early. And so I was a little confused, but I mean, they're leaning into their strength. Their strength is developing pitching. Right-handed pitching, especially prep pitching. Their first 3 picks are all prep righties. They followed that up with Auburn's closer, right-hand pitcher Blake Burkhalter. They want to try him at starting, they said. They see him as a guy, he's a fastball cutter guy, got a big recommendation from Tim Hudson, who is the pitching coach at Auburn, obviously former Braves legend. And so, like I said, they want to take him and make him into a starter. And the mold here is very much Spencer Strider. You've got an electric fastball and a secondary, and those are your 2 carrying pitches. Let's let you work on starting a bit and just let you eat and see what you can do. The Spencer Strider model. Everybody said Strider needs a 3rd pitch. He looks like a reliever with these 2 pitches that he has. Well, they've put him in the rotation, and it's worked out so far for the most part. So that's what they're going to try to do with Blake Burkhalter. I think it's really interesting. And then a late round pick here that I like, Justin Janus, the first baseman out of Illinois in the 12th round. Prolific hitter, doesn't have a ton of power, kind of unusual in that first base role. Not a huge, big power guy, but very good hitter at first base. Something where if you're getting a lot of power out of some positions that normally aren't powerful positions, you can put a pure hitter out there in Justin Janus. So curious to see what he does there. Last team in the division, the Phillies only had 1 pick early. They took Justin Crawford, loud tools, really projectable. Obviously, tons of questions about what he's going to be able to do and exactly what's going to happen there. Some of the mid-round picks that I like. Orion Kerkering out of USF, 5th round pick. And he's a guy, fastball slider guy, who I'm worried that they're going to have him try to start. I don't think having him start is the best decision. I think what you need to do, he gets tons of strikeouts on the slider, right? Doesn't necessarily have a great 3rd pitch. I think you take Ryan Kerkering and you just be like, listen, just throw as many sliders as you can. Slider, you get 40% Ks on this slider. So, stick with the fastball slider, throw the fastball enough to keep them honest. Let's make sure they tunnel well and disguise well off each other, but just hammer the slider until folks prove that they can actually catch up to it. I think it'll take longer than you expect. And then 18th round, Braylon Wimmer out of South Carolina. I'm going to call him a utility guy now. He's got some swing and miss in his game. And when you look at him, he's listed as a second baseman. He's played all over the diamond. He's got the versatility to play a bunch of places. I believe he has the range, but not the arm. So it's something where he's not going to be your everyday guy at 3rd or at short, but second base, good there. He's got probably 15 home run power, has some swing and miss in the game. Obviously, that's why he's there in the 18th round. Interesting pick. I think a guy that could work out and can contribute. Just a minute. I want to get to the National League Central. Some interesting stuff in this round. Interesting stuff in this division, including what the Pirates did. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Sports Card Investor. Whether you're a casual card collector or you're looking for an exciting alternative investment opportunity, the free Sports Card Investor app has something for you. So you can go in here, you pull up cards. You pull up trading cards about for 4 different players. You can go and check out breakout stars or prospects that are debuting and find the value of their cards and find some great deals. So if there's somebody that you like, a Jeremy Pena, for instance, you can go and get that. If there's somebody that you're high on that's risen through the system quickly, Asteri Ruiz, for instance, you can go out there, find his cards, go get their card, and it's a great way to, if you've identified a guy as being really good before the market has, get the card at a pretty good deal. If you're just kind of feeling nostalgic, you can go back and check old players and old cards, or go check your old cards from when you were a kid and see how much they're worth today. And then if you just want to get into sports cards, you can take this to look up some of the top players, look up some of the interesting, the most valuable cards and why. You can get the latest values, and you can find great deals if you want to get into the hobby. So download the Sports Card Investor app today. It's available for free in the Google Play or Apple App Stores, or go to sportscardinvestor.com/lockedon. So, looking at the National League Central, start off with the Pirates. Pirates, Tamar Johnson at 4, best hitter in the draft. Thomas, and then after that, very heavy into pitching. Thomas Harrington from Campbell, Hunter Barco from Florida. I like that first round. Two really good that first day. Two really good pitchers after the best hitter in the draft. And they really go pitcher heavy. A lot of pitchers in here. 6th round, Derek Diamond from Ole Miss. Kind of curious what he's going to end up being. Had a really good 2021. Didn't have a great 2022. Ended up moving to the bullpen. Warmed up in Omaha and never actually got into a game in Omaha. And I think the big question is, what's the slider going to do? Is it the 2021 slider? Is it the 2022 slider? I think they're confident they can uncover the 2021 form that he had, where he was one of the better pitchers, and really get a deal here in the 6th round. Not incredibly late, but a later round pick I like. The 10th round, Tanner Treadway out of Oklahoma. Just has produced ever since he got on campus. Gap-to-gap power. He can steal bases. He's got some speed to him, and then plays pretty decent defense. He's one of those high-floor guys where he's going to give you a reliable option in the outfield. Probably going to be your 3rd of 3 outfielders, maybe a 4th outfielder if something doesn't quite click, but just a high floor for you that can really help out at the major league level. The Milwaukee Brewers had an interesting plan here where they just went for contact and discipline. So Eric Brown, Robert Moore out of Arkansas. Moore's another guy, had a better 21 than 22. We'll see what happens, but the tools are there. And then some of the mid-round guys. Ben Metzinger out of Louisville, 3rd baseman in the 7th round. Interesting prospect. Used to be a catcher, converted to a position player, played 3rd. He's got good athleticism. Finally unlocked some power. I think he had 5 home runs in his first couple of years, had 19 in 2022. So took a flyer on him. Can move around a little bit, can steal a couple bases. Like I said, converted catcher. He's more athletic, and they moved him off the position. We've seen teams do this before. Taylor Ward for the Angels. Before that, Bryce Harper was a converted catcher, so there you go. 18th round, my favorite late round prospect in the entire draft. Pitcher Gerangelo Sintagi, I think is how you say it, Sintagi. Switch pitcher, ambidextrous pitcher, better as a righty than a lefty. Later than we expected. I think he'll still make it onto campus at Mississippi State, but super excited to see what he can do as a switch pitcher. Naturally left-handed, taught himself to throw right-handed because his dad was a right-handed pitcher, and is now better as a righty than a lefty. Super interesting prospect. Really excited to see what he does. The Cardinals. St. Louis Cardinals had a very Cardinals draft. We're going for pitchability. We opened it up with a bunch of lefties. Cooper Herpy, Bryce Mounts from San Diego was the second guy. So very, very Cardinals style draft. 6th round, mid-round guy here, Max Rajic out of UCLA. Has an okay fastball, throws a bunch of secondaries, lives with breaking stuff and off speed. Kind of just feels like a team that, like, one of the spiritual successors to Adam Wainwright. Just kind of feels like that's what they were going for, and that's kind of their thing, and I like it. 12th round, Michael Curali, shortstop from UCLA. Interesting guy. Defensive versatility. Can play just about anywhere in the can play anywhere in the infield. Can probably play plenty of places in the outfield, except for maybe center. I'm not sure. Issue is he has swing and miss, and then power's kind of low. Career 455 slugging. So something where I like him as a prospect. I'm just curious about whether or not he can hit for enough power to actually be an everyday regular, or if he's going to be a kind of a defensive utility guy, defense replacement kind of player. But interesting pick. The Reds. Holy cow. The Reds handled the corners in this draft. So Cam Collier, they float him down to 18. We were talking about him as a possible number 1 overall pick. Sal Stewart out of high school at 3rd base with the 32nd pick. He's going to end up probably moving to 1st. You've handled the corners, you're done. Logan Tanner, the Mississippi State catcher, great defensive catcher. You've handled pitching. 3 legitimate guys. And then a bunch of guys in there that I liked. Bryce Hubbard from Florida State went in the 3rd. The mid-round guy I want to point out, though, Trey Faltine of Texas. So no doubt shortstop. No doubt defensive guy can stick there. Started every single game at shortstop, I believe, the entire time he was at Texas. He's got some swing and miss in his game, strikes out 35% of the time. The big issue he has is off-speed away. So something the Reds will have to fix. Like we've talked about before, I trust them to develop hitters. So Cam Collier, Sal Stewart, and then Trey Faltine want to see what they're going to do. But I trust them to develop these guys. Late round guy that I think is interesting, 19th round, Tyler Chadwick out of JUCO. Right-hand pitcher. I think he's going to be a really good fastball slider reliever. I see a lot of tools there, kind of impressed with what he's done, and I think that's a good late-round flyer for them to take. He may go back to school, I don't know, but I think he'll probably get drafted. I think he'll probably stick and sign. The Cubs, very loud stuff, took on a lot of risk early. Cade Horton from Oklahoma at number 7 overall, super fast riser. We didn't have him on draft boards in March, and now he's in top 10. Jackson Ferris, the prep pitcher out of IMG Academy in the 2nd. And then they took 2 more prep players, 2 shortstops with the 3rd and 4th pick. So loud tools, tons of risk. Pick I do like in here. 9th round, right-hand pitcher Connor Noland out of Arkansas. Just good pitchability guy. Little bit of security there. I think he's got an average slider and above average curveball. Needs to improve the fastball. Sits 90, 91. As a righty, that's not necessarily going to be good enough. But I think that he's got a sense and a feel for pitching. And if they can improve some of the actual talent there as far as what the fastball does, the metrics and everything on it, I think he's going to work out pretty well. Just a minute, I want to get to the National League West. Some of my favorite drafts were in here. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. You've probably tried the Coconut Brownie Chunk Built Bar, but now they have a Coconut Brownie Chunk Puff. It's the same Coconut Brownie Chunk flavor you love and a delicious chewy marshmallow that is covered in 100% real chocolate. It's high protein, low in calories, low in carbs, low in sugar. It is good for you. It's only here for a limited time. This is one of those things where they come and they go. It's seasonal or just limited time. This is a limited time thing. They just sent me a couple. They showed up yesterday. Very excited to try this. I think it's going to be very good. Obviously, they're amazing. You can enjoy them guilt-free because they're good for you. So go to Built.com, sign up for the mailing list so that you know when they drop these limited time things. But while you're there, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. Okay, National League West. My favorite day one, I think, was the Arizona Diamondbacks. You get Drew Jones, arguably the best player in the draft. You get Landon Sims, the right-hand pitcher from Mississippi State, who was injured, but was considered to be, before he got injured, probably one of the best pitchers in the draft. And then you got Ivan Melendez, the first baseman from Texas, who was statistically the best college performer this year. Led all at NCAA in home runs, broke Chris Bryant's single-season home run record. Fantastic first day. I'm going to hop on sometime soon with Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks, and we're going to talk about what this outfield might look like in the future and some of the talent that they have here. Absolutely just killed day one. Fantastic day one. Some of the draft picks that I liked partway through. Andrew Pintar in the 5th round, shortstop out of BYU. So above average raw power, plus runner as well, but has some bad stats, had a shoulder injury. And so this is something where the question is defensively, what are you going to do? He had below average arm strength before the shoulder injury. Wasn't having a great 2022, got hurt. So a couple questions here about his fit. May have to slide over to second or something like that. But again, above average raw power and a plus runner. So if he ends up being at second base, I think it's still going to be a good pick for you. Late round guy that I thought was really interesting. 14th rounder Kevin Graham, the outfielder out of Ole Miss. Just a reliable hitter. I mean, just a veteran that is going to be one of those going to raise your floor. We talked about these guys having their the three big outfielders, and again, we'll get more into that when we talk to Millard on the show. But I very much think that Kevin Graham is going to be one of those. if everything works out for everybody, he's going to be a fourth outfielder. He'll play left field for you. He can fill in at first base for you. He'll be a good clubhouse guy, be very versatile for you. It's a really good pick, as far as where you are and what you necessarily need in the system. I think it works out well. San Diego Padres just put a premium on pitching, but they picked up some risk. So Dylan Lesko at 15, he was in contention before he had to have TJ as a high school senior. He was in contention to be a 1-1. Best prep pitcher in the draft was kind of what he was considered to be. Robbie Snelling, prep lefty at in the supplemental first round, and then Adam Mazur out of Iowa in the second. So went out for some premium pitching, but guys with risk and injury concerns. 8th round pick, first baseman Griffin Dorsey out of Oklahoma State. Our last minute draft preview. This is one of the guys Jeff talked about. Tons of power. 6'4", 250, massive power. Doesn't give you a lot defensively other than first base or DH, but in pure power threat, doesn't swing and miss too much. I think the reason he fell to 8 is because he's so defensively limited. He's on that second tier of first base power hitters behind Ivan Melendez and Sonny DeShera. So, but yeah, massive power, gonna help you out there. And then in the 12th round, interesting guy to me, left-hand pitcher Austin Krob, K-R-O-B, Krob, yeah, out of TCU. Fastball, slider, change guy. I like his arsenal. He got hurt during the season, and when he came back, he went to the bullpen. I'm assuming it was something where it would have been quicker for him to come back as a reliever than to build back up to a starter's workload to come back late in the season. So a little bit of question there about, is he going to be a starter or reliever? I think that's why he ended up in the 12th round versus going probably between the 7th or 8th. But good talent. Like to see what the Padres are going to do there. Giants. High risk, high reward early. So they took a two-way player, left-hand pitcher Reggie Crawford out of UConn. Did not pitch this year because of injury. They then took left-hand pitcher Carson Whisenhunt out of East Carolina. Also did not pitch this year due to suspension. He was popped on a drug test. I think they said it was anabolic steroids. So two guys that didn't pitch, drastically different reasons. So high risk here, but high reward. These guys could both be very good pitchers if they work out. And then after that, just really focused on college pitching. Took a lot of college pitchers in day 2. One of the few the only position player in day 2, outfielder Wade Meckler in the 8th round. I like this pick. Great contact and on-base guy. Issue you have here, doesn't have great power, doesn't have a great arm. So doesn't necessarily fit into left because of the profile, or right. But I don't know if he has the speed and defensive ability to play center. So a useful guy for you may end up only being a 4th outfielder, unless you can unlock some more power. But a gamer, a good player, and somebody who will raise the floor of the system a bit. And then 15th round. Stop me if you've heard this before. Tanner Otremba, outfielder from Arizona, has poor defense and a poor arm. Broke out power-wise in 2022. So flashed some power, which is something that Wade Meckler didn't have, but doesn't have great defense, doesn't have a great arm. You're looking at probably a left fielder in the best case scenario. So I think that's why Meckler's higher and Otremba's lower, because Otremba doesn't have the defense either, whereas Meckler has the defense but doesn't have the arm. So defensively, Meckler can hold his own. Offensively, Otremba has some power and can do some stuff there. Rockies. I love the Rockies draft. I actually went on just recently and talked with Paul Holden of Locked On Rockies, and I'll play that for you guys sometime soon once we get done with these recaps. Love what they did. Every single pitcher they went out to get is a guy that profiles where their stuff should work. At Coors Field, right-hand pitcher Gabriel Hughes at 10. His big out pitch is a power slider. Being that it's a power slider, it's going to hold up better in the high altitude because breaking pitches don't do as much. Some of the position players they got were guys that they went out to, they look for specific traits, but just so many of the pitchers are like this is a guy that will play well in Coors Field. They were very deliberate, and every single guy fits the model. Carson Palmquist in the 4th. Connor Stain in the 5th. Some of the picks that I liked here, outfielder Brad Cumbest in the 9th out of Mississippi State. Plus raw power, plus speed as well. He's a big guy, played wide receiver and tight end for Mississippi State. Really raw because he didn't focus on just baseball until the 2022 season, but great combination of power, speed, and I think somebody will take a little bit longer in the minors to develop, but is going to be a very good option for you in the outfield and would play well in Colorado. And then one of my favorite late round, like day 3 picks of the entire draft, Carson Skipper, the lefty pitcher in the 11th round out of Auburn. So, senior, I think he had a COVID year left, but went to take it. Has a big curveball, big bodied curveball that's still going to work in Coors as well as a fastball. Just a guy that very competitive, will take the ball, will empty the tank for you every single time. Auburn had him as the key setup man to, I think second team SEC closer Blake Burkhalter, and then come playoffs, they said, hey, can you go throw game 1 of the SEC tournament for us on a Tuesday? And he's like, yeah. And he went out there and he just killed it. So really flexible guy. One of those guys will do anything that you need. 11th round because you've got questions about about how high end the stuff can get, but just really good pitchability and a guy who's going to be useful for them. Final team here to cover, and I feel like we don't talk about this team nearly enough for having a really good farm system and things like that, but only first round pick they had that the Dodgers had was Dalton Rushing, the catcher out of Louisville. They just went back to the well. They got Will Smith. It worked out there, so they went back to the well. Dalton Rushing out of Louisville. That now gives them 2 top catchers in this system, because I think Rushing's going to end up in that top 10 probably right away. And then they picked up quite a few of those prep lottery tickets in the back half. I think they had four prep players on day 3, as well as a JUCO guy as well. So a lot of lottery tickets. I like their 8th round pick, Louisiana Tech second baseman Taylor Young. He's old for minor league ball. He's 24, but has always been a 300 hitter every single year he was in college. Has plus range, plus speed. I think his arm's going to limit him to being at second base versus short. He's been a shortstop his whole career. They think the arm's going to make him move, but really interesting guy. Lots of stuff to like, except for the age. That's pretty much the age, the arm strength. Those are your 2 knocks. So I think it was a good get for them to get him where they did in the 8th. And then pitcher Jared Karros out of UCLA in the 16th. Obviously, Eric Karros' kid. It's a legacy there for the Dodgers. Really tall pitcher, 6'7", but he's got room to fill out. He's less than 200 pounds. So I think some physical development is going to be good for him. He was injured in 2022. I think it's why he fell to the 16th round, but a good pick and one that I absolutely do like for the Dodgers. We're going to do a lot more shows that are kind of not so rapid fire, breaking in on some of these guys and focusing in on some of these teams and some of these drafts. So stay tuned to that. We have a lot of crossovers coming up. We're talking to different teams, talking to the Rockies, talking to the Diamondbacks, talking to the Rays. A lot of teams that had interesting drafts I want to kind of get into. Remember, if you have questions for the show, the mailbag is back on Monday. I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. Show's on Twitter at Locked On Farm. Or you can email us, lockedonmlbprospects@gmail.com. We do have a Farm Friday coming this week, so stay tuned for that. But until then, this has been Locked On MLB Prospects.